Ethan Cole adjusted the collar of his only suit while standing outside the grand glass entrance of the Carlton estate. He hadn't worn it in years. The fabric felt tight around his shoulders, not because he'd gained weight, but because life had slowly carved responsibility into his posture. Beside him, his 6-year-old daughter Lily tugged gently at his sleeve. "Daddy, is this really a castle?" He smiled faintly, something like that. Ethan was a single father who worked long hours repairing HVAC systems across the city. Most days, he came home exhausted, grease on his hands and worry in his eyes. His world revolved around Lily's school lunches, bedtime stories, and trying to stretch every paycheck just far enough. So when Sophia Hart, one of his regular clients, invited him to her sister's wedding, he almost said no. Almost. Sophia was different from most people he worked for. She was kind, soft-spoken, and never once looked down on him for wearing work boots into her marble-floored penthouse. She had hired him months earlier for a small repair, but afterward insisted on keeping him as her primary contractor. What Ethan didn't realize back then was that Sophia Hart was a billionaire. He only knew she paid on time, offered tea, and always asked how Lily was doing. "You don't have to come if it feels uncomfortable," Sophia had said over the phone. "But my sister wanted to meet the man who helped renovate half my properties." Renovate half my properties. That should have been his first clue. Inside the estate, crystal chandeliers shimmered above marble floors. Guests in designer gowns and tailored tuxedos filled the massive hall, champagne flutes in hand, laughter echoing off gold-trimmed walls. Ethan felt painfully out of place. He held Lily's hand tighter. Sophia spotted them almost immediately. She crossed the room in a sleek emerald dress, smiling warmly. "You made it," she said. "Barely," Ethan replied with a nervous chuckle. "Your place is impressive." She laughed softly. "Come, I'll introduce you to my family." As they walked, Ethan noticed people greeting Sophia with respect, some with awe. Heads turned. Conversations paused. That's when it hit him. This wasn't just a wealthy client. This was someone powerful. Sophia's sister, the bride, greeted Ethan kindly, thanking him for his work on the estate. Lily was given a flower crown and a cupcake within minutes. For a moment, Ethan allowed himself to relax. Then the ceremony began. The groom stood tall at the altar, handsome and confident, dressed in a custom black tuxedo. Ethan vaguely recognized him, Marcus Hale, a rising entrepreneur whose face had appeared in business magazines. Everything felt surreal, until Marcus's eyes drifted across the audience. They landed on Ethan. His confident expression shattered. Color drained from his face. He whispered something to the officiant, stepped away from the altar, and walked directly down the aisle. Gasps rippled through the room. Sophia turned slowly. Ethan stood frozen. Marcus stopped in front of him. Then, in a voice loud enough for half the hall to hear, he said, "Boss." Silence swallowed the room. Hundreds of eyes locked onto Ethan. He blinked. "I'm sorry." Marcus swallowed hard. "It's you, Ethan Cole. You don't recognize me." Ethan studied his face. Slowly, memory stirred. 8 years ago. A struggling startup. A young man who had shown up to his tiny warehouse office with nothing but a business plan and desperation in his eyes. Marcus Hale had been a broke dreamer back then. Ethan had taken a risk no one else would. He had invested every dollar he had saved, not much, but enough to keep Marcus's company alive. More than that, he had given advice, connections, and late-night encouragement when everything seemed ready to collapse. Then Lily's mother had passed away. Hospital bills had piled up. Ethan had quietly sold his shares back to Marcus for a fraction of their future value, just to survive. He never told Marcus how bad things had gotten. He simply walked away. Marcus's voice trembled now. You saved my company. You gave me my first chance. You taught me how to lead people. He turned toward the guests. This man is the reason I'm standing here today. Murmurs swept through the crowd. Sophia stared at Ethan, stunned. You never told me, she whispered. Ethan shrugged awkwardly. Didn't seem important. Marcus shook his head. Not important. You believed in me when no one else would. You emptied your savings so I could make payroll. You told me to put my employees first even when I was scared. His eyes glistened. You were my boss. The officiant stood forgotten. The wedding guests watched in disbelief. Marcus turned back to Ethan. Why didn't you ever come back? I tried finding you. Ethan glanced at Lily, who was hugging her cupcake. Life happened, he said quietly. Sophia suddenly understood. The long hours. The modest clothes. The way Ethan never complained. She took a slow breath, steadying herself. Marcus straightened. To everyone here, he said, voice firm, this wedding wouldn't exist without Ethan Cole. Then he did something no one expected. He lowered himself and knelt right there on the marble floor. Ethan's heart nearly stopped. Marcus, get up, he whispered urgently. Marcus shook his head. You taught me that gratitude matters, that loyalty matters. I owe you everything. He stood, turned to the crowd again. And today, before I marry the love of my life, I want to make something right. He pulled a folder from his best man. Ethan Cole, I've had my legal team track down your original investment records, adjusted for growth, interest, and company valuation. He handed Ethan the papers. You are now the rightful owner of 12% of Hale Industries. Ethan stared. His hands began to shake. That's not possible. Marcus smiled. That's over $40 million. Lily looked up. Daddy, are we rich? The room erupted into shocked whispers. Sophia covered her mouth. Ethan felt dizzy. I didn't help you for money, he said. I know, Marcus replied softly. That's why you deserve it. The ceremony resumed after tears, hugs, and applause that lasted nearly 5 minutes. But everything had changed. Ethan sat through the rest of the wedding in a daze, Lily curled beside him, humming to herself. Afterward, Sophia led him onto a quiet terrace overlooking the city skyline. You could have told me, she said gently. He leaned against the railing. I didn't want special treatment. Sophia studied him. You fixed broken systems in my buildings without charging extra. You came in on weekends. You brought Lily with you when you couldn't afford childcare. She paused. And you once gave away a fortune just to raise your daughter. Ethan exhaled slowly. She's my real wealth. Sophia smiled. You're rare, Ethan Cole. Marcus joined them, holding 2 glasses of sparkling water. No alcohol for single dads, he said with a grin. They talked for hours, about old times, about business, about Lily's dreams of becoming a veterinarian. Sophia listened closely. Later that night, as guests departed and music faded, Sophia made him another offer. I'm starting a foundation for affordable housing and small business grants, she said. I want you to run it. Ethan blinked. Me. You understand struggle, you understand people, and now you have the resources. He looked at Lily, fast asleep in his arms. For the first time in years, he felt something unfamiliar. Relief. Not because of the money, but because the years of quiet sacrifice had finally been seen. He accepted. Over the following months, Ethan moved into a modest home near Lily's school. He didn't buy sports cars or mansions. He invested in education programs, repair apprenticeships, and single-parent support networks. Marcus continued to call him boss every time they spoke. Sophia became a close friend, someone who admired his strength and grounded his new life with perspective. And Lily. She told everyone at school that her dad fixed air conditioners, saved companies, and once went to a wedding where the groom bowed to him. Sometimes true wealth doesn't come from power or status. Sometimes it comes from showing up when someone needs you, even if the world never notices. Until one day it finally does.